Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in and watching The World. We've been covering a lot of news lately, especially when it comes to Donald Trump, Epstein, and some of the hottest topics known to man, right? Dealing with topics here in the United States, but also we started off a lot of this discussion with Sean Diddy Combs. And as many of you have known, I haven't been covering Sean Diddy Combs a lot since the trial. The trial actually took a lot out of me. I attended the trial every day for about 8 weeks. And even longer if you include the jury selection. So tonight we're going to have at it. I saw a video kind of alluding to how this whole thing began, and it was quite shocking because I didn't see the video before I attended the trial. But this video I want to watch with you guys tonight to show you this is, quite frankly, how a lot of this may have began. And just to think all of this time and effort went into this trial from so many different people from around the world that came through to attend the trial. It was long days sitting on what I call the church pews, sitting there in the courtroom on those hard seats. And just to think a lot of this could have been built on a false premise, although we do know a lot of things was true. It came out in court. I saw it with my own eyes. I heard it with my own ears. But we're going to look at the initial video as to why Sean Diddy Combs is now, he's actually suing a couple of individuals, even a news station, allegedly, in accordance to his trial. Now, this is not to take away, this argument does not in any way talk about the victims. We know that victims are victims and they should never be, their story should never be mitigated due to what someone else's opinion may be, because everybody has their own story. But tonight we're just looking at how this case was initiated, and I'm going to show you a video that kind of kicked off a lot of this. I'm not saying this started the case totally, but it had a lot to do with it. Before I get started, though, shout out to Reverend Greenbacks is in the building, Bordeaux. Thank you guys for tuning in early. We also have Sincere Senior. Welcome in. So we're going to start off now right away. We're going to get to this video that was on News Nation, and notice how the storyline began.
Because my next guest just testified before a federal grand jury. He says he was in possession of a trove of digital evidence from Diddy's freak-offs and parties. His name is Courtney Burgess, and he says a friend gave him 11 flash drives that belonged to the late Kim Porter. And if you follow this story, you'll know that Kim Porter is Diddy's ex-girlfriend and the mother of 4 of his kids. On those drives, the witness says 8 videos featured 8 celebrities at Diddy freak-offs or parties, and that 6 were males, 2 were females. The drive also included a manuscript of an alleged Kim Porter memoir, a memoir that her 4 kids insist is fake. Courtney Burgess told his story on a podcast before he told the grand jury today, and after he told the grand jury, and I mean immediately after, he booked it over to my set, and he and his attorney talked to me. I should tell you that he was very limited in how much detail he could go into about his testimony. And because the 8 people in the videos, the 8 celebrities in the videos were allegedly victims of sex crimes, we know who they are, but we will not be naming them, famous or not. Here now is my conversation with Courtney Burgess and Ariel Mitchell, who's his attorney.
Okay, so this is an older video. It started long before the trial kicked off. So we're going to hear what this gentleman had to say. Now, keep in mind that he was brought before, and he actually gave his testimony before the jury.
Beginning with the question of whether the participants,
the grand jury, that is,
in the video even knew they were being recorded.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Were there any cameras in places where you'd assume privacy, like bathrooms?
Well, I've never been in this house, but the picture, yes. That's where it took place, yes.
You're aware of surreptitious cameras that were recording in private places like bathrooms.
I didn't see the cameras. You could tell how the person was angled. I knew that it was a camera there because I was there. I was there. I don't know if the person was too
So already we don't have an eyewitness testimony.
Tall, he was holding or whatever, but I wasn't there.
May I ask you this, Courtney? And
I just want to say, throughout my time attending the trial, I never saw this individual or anyone in the frame.
Gail, you can jump in on this as well, but I want to hear from Courtney first. Your home was raided by federal authorities, and I assume it is because of this material. Is that true?
I wouldn't say that. They just went to every one of them looking for me. They said, the paperwork said the 24th, that I had to be there the 28th, and then it was the 27th. I can't make it there, that's tomorrow. So I don't know. From the look of it, was 4 days.
And I want to be specific. When we talk about a raid, we're talking about when a subpoena is served for documents, a search warrant or an arrest warrant. In this situation, Mr. Burgess was not in any way, shape, or form had a search warrant or an arrest warrant issued for him. It was just them serving a subpoena. So when the federal government needs to serve a subpoena, they use the marshals.
So he allegedly had incriminating evidence. Before we go any further, let me get to a few comments before they all get away from me. Let's see what we have people saying here. We're going to take our time tonight and get through this together. Gear Jammer says, welcome back, says, praise the orange man. Okay, he's talking about Donald Trump. Okay, Marky Mark is in the building. Hello, how are you? Ashley, thank you. Reverend Greenback says, totally diabolical. 6 males, 2 females. I can already tell you, did not hear that in court. So we're already off to a shaky start here. Joshua says, what I find interesting is what the entertainment industry is like, how things happen, deals are made, people are quiet. I'd be willing to bet the Epstein thing is exactly the same. People are saying there's similarities with the claims about having incriminating videos. And I guess this gentleman here is alluding to that. We're going to see as we get through the video. Joshua says many people in the government that are either clients, victims, or associates tied together by secrets. Well, we've been discussing that every day when it comes to Donald Trump, Epstein. All roads lead to Epstein, allegedly, folks. Alexandru says, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. All who, I could finish the quote, but I won't. Gear Jammer says, Trump just keeps on winning over and over. Okay, so we have a lot of Trump fans, but tonight we're talking about Sean Diddy Combs, the individual that I attended his trial, and he won for the most part because the most incriminating actions against him were acquitted.
Service to come to all of your residences if you have more than one residence. So in this situation, they sent marshals to all of Mr. Burgess's residences, and that was somehow construed or understood or turned into a raid, but he did not face a raid. It was just to serve him a subpoena.
Ariel, do you believe that the subpoenas were issued and executed based on the federal authorities' knowledge that these flash drives exist?
Now, what led me to this video is that a lot of people online were saying that he was the fake TD Jakes. And I was like, the fake TD Jakes? Who is this guy? And that's how I discovered this video. He does favor TD Jakes maybe by a long shot, but I could see the argument.
Existed and had this kind of compromising material?
I think it was based on statements that Mr. Burgess made in a prior interview.
And those statements include descriptions of what the witness says he saw on those tapes. So I asked him about that, and he answered what he could, given the limitations imposed on him after testifying before the grand jury.
They keep outperforming me and call me crazy, but I hope they never stop. Everyone thinks I have a team, a full-on.
Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8 celebrities, how many of them were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
This is going to be all speculation. I just want to preface it by he wouldn't know if they were. Right.
Sure.
Appear to
Let
be.
me rephrase it.
Based on, yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities.
So what I understand, the feds came after this gentleman here to get the information that he allegedly had that was incriminating for Sean Diddy Combs. So that's what this is about. But Sean Diddy Combs is actually suing these individuals, including a news station. I'll just put it that way.
Who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs. How many of them appear to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appear to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims
They
or
victims.
were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were all 8 were victims.
So I can confirm pretty much when it came to the court case, what they're talking about now did not come up in court. Obviously, we have the individual victims and witnesses that came through, but the dialogue that's being shared here, I did not hear in court.
Victimized, meaning this was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it, what they was doing.
And of those 8, how many seemed to be potentially minors?
2 to 3, possibly 3.
Okay, so I attended Sean Diddy Combs' trial. There was nothing in the trial about minors, not one iota about minors being involved. So I just want to make that clear. I can't speak on these individuals, but I'm just telling you what I saw and heard. 2 to 3.
Also on the flash drives, Courtney, was what looked to be a manuscript written by, it appears to be a woman who had taken Kim Porter's private journals and had written a book. Is that accurate?
We don't know.
I
don't know how. Yeah.
I don't know how, who wrote it, put it together, but it was from her when I spoke to her.
What you received on the flash drives, was it the completed book or was it notes from Kim Porter that later were made into a book?
It was completed. It's only 60,
it's
only about 54 pages. It was
Sure, and in the beginning, it says, Kim made me promise that if something happened to her, I would make sure this book became public to the world. The way Sean moved, I knew that was a promise I would have to fulfill. Kim knew I was a woman of my word, and this book was going to make it to print. So it sounds like it is a woman who wrote up the notes from Kim Porter. Does that sound accurate?
It's how you read it, yes. I haven't even read the book.
Do you know who the woman is?
No.
And to be clear, he received it in its complete form. So I think just to make sure we have some clarity here.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, I believe this gentleman here was brought before the grand jury to testify in regards to Sean Diddy Combs. That's how this case, well, toward the beginning parts of this case, keep in mind this
manuscript that Mr. Burgess received was already in its complete form. It's not that he edited it or changed anything.
Quite frankly, in court, there wasn't a lot about Kim Porter. And in fact, I didn't recall hearing anything about this manuscript either.
Got it.
He did give it to someone else who then edited it, but that's not how he received it.
Okay, so Ariel, did your client, Courtney, receive the book from the woman who seems to have written it, saying, I'm a woman of my word, and this book is going to make it to print?
I don't know if he received it from a man or a woman. He can answer that.
I received it from a man. I tell you, somebody she was dating.
Do you know if the notes from the book really were from Kim Porter?
It was, yes, because I spoke to her probably like 6 hours before I received it.
You spoke to Kim Porter?
Yes.
So Kim Porter.
Just saying hi.
Okay.
Just saying hi.
Okay, Ariel, go ahead and give me clarity on the timeline.
No, I'm trying to get him to provide clarity of, was there a conversation with her?
No, I was talking to the person, and he said, hold up, this is Courtney, be right here. Let me say something to him. He said, I know him, put me on speaker. Then that's how we end up speaking.
And then later, somebody else came and brought you the manuscript.
Right. Before I left ATL.
To the best of your knowledge, Courtney, do you believe that the manuscript is truly based on Kim Porter's diaries? Because there is a lot of dialogue in there. It is pages and pages of actual dialogue, which, I mean, I can't remember breakfast today, let alone dialogue from 5, 10, 15, and 20 years ago.
I guess this is a woman's scar. You understand? Maybe, what she been through. It's, I'm not a woman, so I'm just going by how I got female friends and relatives. They always come to the house scorned because what went on in their relationship. And you can't,
So again, folks, these are the individuals that Sean Diddy Combs is allegedly suing because of false allegations. And I'm going to go over the actual court documents within the near future.
Go on, you can't forget it.
Important to stop down here for a moment and note again that Sean Combs is accused. He has not been convicted of any crimes. And so far, everything against him is an allegation until it is proven in a court of law and a jury either decides or he decides to sign a plea deal to any of these crimes. But at this point in the story, Sean Combs is not guilty of any crimes. He is currently under indictment. He is currently being held on bail. But if you're at all curious about how Courtney Burgess feels about Diddy today, I asked him about that too. And here's what he had to say. Your lawyer just said, the story the tapes tell are the story of Diddy from the last several decades. And I know that you've known Diddy for a very long time. Can you describe what that story is based on what you now know to be true, the last several decades of Diddy's behavior and the reason he's now sitting in lockup?
I think I've been doing it for 35 years. I think we probably entered the music business at the same time. He entered with Uptown, I entered into Big Beat, Atlantic. At the time, I guess he was ambitious. He was then from ambitious went to doing anything, and then from doing anything to didn't care about nobody, who he could beat, and then he ended up turning into Lucifer. Today, I look at him. I know y'all call him Diddy or Puffy. I call him Lucifer.
Okay, so there you have it. That's the original video, I guess, that aired on this particular network. Anyway, there's no details that I observed in this video that I heard actually in court. So we definitely will be getting to the actual court documents, but it looks a little bit shaky. That's all I can say about this. Now, moving on, that's all I'll say about that particular video. Moving on, we've had some videos come out in regards to Sean Puffy Combs' attorney. So we're just going to breeze through them. I think I heard rumors in regards to Sean Diddy Combs perhaps performing at the Madison. Also, he might become a counselor or therapist. We've also heard different stories when it comes to him perhaps receiving a pardon. Nicole Westmoreland, who I believe was a very good attorney. She was out of, I believe, Atlanta, Georgia. She represented Sean Diddy Combs, and let me tell you something. Her cross-examinations were incredible, as her skills were unbelievable. Probably one of the sharpest female attorneys I've ever seen, and I stand on that 100%. She was recently on Piers Morgan, and we're going to check out her interview, and then we're going to check out the lead attorney, Marc Agnifilo, and his comments that occurred right after this. But let's start with her and see what we can glean from her interview.
With hefty jail terms, but members of his inner circle are hoping that President Trump will cut them short.
Okay, we have a lot of people here. Please hit the like button if you like the material. You could also share and subscribe if you feel the need. All right, we have Gold Digger in the building. Nice to have you here. Thanks. Welcome back. Truth Pace says a blind man can see through his lies. Okay, so you felt like that individual was lying. Okay, Joe Flores is here. Eric, we have a lot of people here, guys. Thank you for all the support. Yes, today at lunch we had 79,000 people come through. That's a lot of people, folks. Great people having great conversations. And tonight, I decided we would just take a break from our usual discussions and go back to Diddy because I hadn't been covering Diddy a lot since I attended the trial. I think that trial took a lot out of me going down every day. And it was such bad news. Every day you'd hear these stories. And and a lot of people like to debate about the victims, or people say, well, this person's not a victim. But I can say that I saw these individuals tell their stories, and listening to the stories, whether they could have been true or not, there were some horrible stories indeed. And attending a trial like that is definitely not a joyful situation. But let's get to tonight. I said we're going to get to Diddy once more, have a little update, and see what we can find out here. Let's get to this video of Nicole Westmoreland.
Diddy and Trump exchanged mutual declarations of friendship long before the legal case, and the president was reportedly giving serious consideration to a pardon. But Trump now says that Diddy's criticism of his first presidency has made things more complicated. Well, Nicole Westmoreland was a leading member of Diddy's all-star defense team, which delivered what Trump called a sort of victory in court. And she joins me now. Welcome to Uncensored.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
Oh, very good. I just wondered where you think you are in terms of what is going to happen in October with the sentencing, because obviously, potentially.
And by the way, guys, the sentencing will be October the 3rd. I'll definitely be in the building.
Sean Diddy Combs could face a significant period of time in prison. Are you anticipating that, or are you anticipating a more lenient sentence, or are you anticipating that President Trump may still intervene and issue a full pardon?
Well, we anticipate that on October 3rd, hopefully he'll be coming home.
But in terms of he wouldn't get a prison sentence at all?
We do not think that he should spend another day in jail. Not at all.
But he has been convicted of crimes. People will say, well, why shouldn't he go to jail?
Well, you know, I think that the Mann Act.
That's right. Newly Balanced says that's an amazing overdose of negative. And indeed it was. I can confirm that.
Act was not meant to cover this type of behavior, number one. And that I think you'll find out very shortly that there is no one that we've been able to locate or identify, no case where someone is in jail for the same behavior.
Vernon Freeman says, why are you saying Diddy has not been charged? That's incorrect. I'm not sure where you're getting that from. This case is far advanced in being charged, so that would be inaccurate. Maybe you misheard something. Antonio says, Don the lying PDF con will pardon Diddy. Okay, well, let's see what happens.
Behavior as Mr. Combs. And so that's not fair, and that's not right.
Is that actually right? That nobody that you've been able to find has ever been sent to prison for the things that he's been convicted of?
Listen, we've looked long and hard. As you know, the judge sent us on a mission to find cases, and that's due September 1st. But listen, we have not been able to locate a case where anyone is in jail for this type of behavior. And, you know,
after Diddy's verdict came in, his attorney, Marc Agnifilo, stood up and basically said, hey, listen, my client, the top 3 charges
Different voices, but the same song. Loving a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the flame remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
person's been a YouTuber for 14 years.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Oh, I see your face again.
Can you hear me?
Um,
Can you guys hear me? You still can't hear me?
no, I got you on my iPad and it's not muted. Are you muted?
Okay, wait. No. They can hear me. So I'm going to let you go now. All right.
Okay.
All right. So you guys can hear me still? Okay. Or you can hear me again. All right. So let's try this again.
Both could land him with hefty jail terms, but members of his inner circle are hoping that President Trump will cut them short. Diddy and Trump exchanged mutual declarations of friendship long before the legal case, and the president was reportedly giving serious consideration to a pardon. But Trump now says that Diddy's criticism of his first presidency.
Okay, so everybody can hear me again. Do we have sound? Bates Karma's in the building. Sorry, guys. I don't know why StreamYard kicked me off. It is what it is. It's one of those type of nights. Okay, so can I get an answer, please? Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. All right, so where did we pick off at? Oh, okay, I know where we picked off at. So the last day of the and thank you guys for bearing with me. I'm not sure why we lost sound. I have to figure out this whole StreamYard. Sometimes it does that. Some people say, oh, it was because of the subject matter. I hope it's not because of the subject matter. But anyway, we're going to keep pushing forward either way. So the last day of the trial, or when the verdict came in, Marc Agnifilo had stood up and he said, listen, my client, the top 3 charges, he was acquitted. And he asked the judge to let Sean Diddy Combs go home that night. And so immediately, Maureen Comey, who was later fired, she stood up and said, this man is a threat to society. And she gave various reasons as to why Sean Diddy Combs should not go home. And the most interesting part is that the judge said, I'm going to make a decision today about what's really going to happen around 1 o'clock, because I'm sure Mr. Combs does not want to go back to the MDC. So at that point, most of us sitting in the audience, or many of us, I should say, felt like Sean Diddy Combs would actually go home that day. So the judge came back at the end of the day with a different tune. In fact, he said, listen, in the opening arguments and also in the closing arguments, he says, your attorneys, or Marc Agnifilo, you gave the argument that your client was guilty of domestic violence. You conceded that he's a violent individual. And so that's when they decided, or the judge relayed, that he was not letting Diddy go home that day. So at any rate, that gives you a little bit of the history of what happened on that day. And that's where we were cut off. Thank you guys. A lot of you guys stuck in the crowd, even though we were disconnected. I really do appreciate that. So let's get back to the video. And I'm going to try to pick up where we left off at.
Has made things more complicated. Well, Nicole Westmoreland was a leading member of Diddy's all-star defense team, which delivered what Trump called.
And again, this is one of Diddy's all-star attorneys. Her name is Nicole Westmoreland. I say she's all-star because she performed at a very high level. Whether you like Diddy or not, she did a fabulous job at representing her client. In fact, under cross-examination, she really put the screws to various individuals, whether they were telling the truth or not. She made it seem as though they were lying. And that had a tremendous effect on the outcome of this case.
A sort of victory in court. And she joins me now. Welcome to Uncensored.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm very good. I just wondered where you think you are in terms of what is going to happen in October with the sentencing. Because obviously, potentially, Sean Diddy Combs could face a significant period of time in prison. Are you anticipating that, or are you anticipating a more lenient sentence, or are you anticipating that President...
Okay, so tell us, guys, how much time do you think Sean Diddy Combs is going to get in October the 3rd? Tell us what you think. Scott says she protected a vile criminal. Okay. Gold Digger says, hi there, Fate's Karma. Okay, awesome.
President Trump may still intervene and issue a full pardon?
Well, we anticipate that on October 3rd, hopefully he'll be coming home.
But in terms of he wouldn't get a prison sentence at all?
We do not think that he should spend another day.
So we have different variations of time. Nathan says 5 to 10 years. Okay. Carrie says 30 years. Valerie says life, I wish. Okay. A lot of people hope that Diddy gets a lot of time.
And jail. Not at all.
But he has been convicted of crimes. People will say, well, why shouldn't he go to jail?
Well, you know, I think that the Mann Act was not meant to cover this type of behavior, number one. And that I think
Joe Fleur says he thinks that Diddy will get time served. Okay, how many of you guys agree with that?
you'll find out very shortly that there is no one that we've been able to locate or identify, no case where someone is in jail for the same behavior as Mr. Combs. And so that's not fair, and that's not right.
Is that actually right? That nobody that you've been able to find has ever been sent to prison for the things that he's been convicted of?
Listen, we've looked long and hard. As you know, the judge sent us on a mission to find cases, and that's due September 1st. But listen, we have not been able to locate a case.
Frank Zappa says he thinks he'll get 1 year time served. Okay. David Owen says prison forever. Wow. Nathan says how liberals the courts have become. Joe, most likely right. Okay. So you think that time served is what he'll get? Charm Lamb says time served. That's what's fair for the charges. Okay. A lot of people, we're split down the middle. So a lot of people have their opinions here. Thank you guys for sharing.
Where anyone is in jail for this type of behavior. And, you know, the DOJ policy manual doesn't even, you know, they say do not prosecute this type of behavior. So, no, we haven't been able to find an individual, not a single one.
In relation to the reports, I saw you on CNN yesterday saying that there had been conversations with the Trump administration. Are you able to say who those conversations were with?
So I'm going to try this again. When I was trying to tell the story last time, I lost sound. So if it happens again, we'll have to say goodnight. They don't want me to tell the story. So in court, on the final day when the verdict came through, the attorney, Marc Agnifilo, which is Diddy's lead attorney, I told you how he stood up. He said, hey, my client should go home. The judge ultimately came back and said, no, he's not going home. He's not going anywhere. The argument that Marc Agnifilo made, and he did a great job in making this argument, he says that they researched 3 or 4 cases, and they only found individuals when they were trying to find like cases. They only found cases where the men were basically like pimps, and they were moving women around basically like cattle, and they were making millions of dollars. They could not find a case where the individual, such as Diddy, because they framed Diddy, right? His attorneys framed him as being a customer of these women. Whether you want to believe that or not, that's the analogy he used in court. So that just gives you an idea of the same argument that she's making now, that they can't find cases like cases where the individual received time, any significant time.
No, I'm not in the weeds on that to that extent. I'm part of the trial team, and right now we're laser focused on preparing for October 3rd.
Right, but it's obviously in the remit of the President of the United States to issue a full pardon should he wish to. He's certainly given some slight...
Okay, guys, I don't want the comments to get too far away. Let's see. John Burke says 1 year. Fates Karma says, I'll say he gets like 2 to 4 years with time served, but no way. I am a lawyer. Unfortunately, they have to go by the law. Raheem Davis says, I think they'll give him time served. Okay, a lot of time serves. Corey says, if Diddy gets out, there are going to be a lot of people going to the hospital for going on the stand. Okay, retribution is in the air. Is that what you're saying? Charlie says the truth be told. Look at who is on the streets now. I'm just saying Ghislaine Maxwell is moved to the country camp prison. Yes, indeed. Good point.
Ambiguous statements, President Trump, indicating that it's not something he has completely ruled out. But he did make a point of saying that he was aware that despite their previous friendship, that Sean Combs had said some pretty negative things about Trump. I went and did some research and found what those were. In 2017, when Trump had been president in his first year of his first term, he said to the Daily Beast, to be honest, we don't really give a F about Trump because black people are in the same effed up position. And in October 2020, he told Charlemagne the God, the radio host, that white men like Trump need to be banished. And the number one priority is to get Trump out of office. He said the real way of thinking is real dangerous. This man literally threatened the lives of us and our families about going to vote. We're in a war of love versus hate. The number one priority is to get Trump out of office. You know, if you're Donald Trump, why, if you reread those comments, should you contemplate a potential pardon?
Because you want to do what's right and what's fair, and you're not going to let anything cloud those decision makings. And so, you know,
okay, so I would say from your response that you are quite hopeful that he will get pardoned by Donald Trump.
I think being pardoned would be the right thing to do. So we're hopeful.
He seems a little frustrated that he's not getting the answers that he's trying to want.
It would be an extraordinary thing if he is pardoned. There were many reports, as you know, before the time came for the jury verdict, that he was looking at potentially spending the rest of his life.
Yes, that's right, Bordeaux. Seems pretty awkward. Dirt Town says, LOL, she's speechless. Okay, Armand says, stupid Democrats. Okay, we have a lot of Trump supporters here.
Life in prison. A lot of the public opinion, I think, was clouded by the horrendous video of him attacking his then girlfriend in a hotel corridor. You have spoken courageously yourself about your own experience with abuse. When you watch that video as a woman, notwithstanding the fact that you've been part of his team, what does that make you feel personally about Sean Diddy Combs in the way that he has been violent towards women?
You know, I know, because I've spent a lot of time speaking with him and I've spent a lot of time with him. I know that he knows that that was wrong. Bottom line, it was wrong. There are no excuses. And I appreciate that he knows that. I feel very confident.
Okay, Tanya Williams says, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump was at some of the freak-offs. Oh, my goodness. Almost took me out there. Charm Lamb says, I love Nicole. Yes, Nicole is very sharp. Gold Digger says, is she speaking about Diddy getting bail and there's no cases they could find where they are remanded to jail while awaiting sentencing, or he should get no time at all for the crime he was convicted of? I think she's talking now about the overall case, as far as in October the 3rd, that he may walk away with time served. In that regard, getting no further time.
That nothing similar, anything like that would ever happen again. And I know that it did not take him being arrested. It did not take him being indicted. It didn't take the tape coming out for him to immediately know that he was wrong, immediately be remorseful, and immediately know that he needed some help. And so all the way back then in 2016, right after that situation, Mr. Combs checked himself in and he started getting help. And so that's what I know. And I'm happy that he started getting help and that he knew that.
That is true. That came out that he was seeking help before he came to court. Charlie Brown says she is not speechless. She's careful with her words. I agree. There are so many people who have committed horrendous crimes, walking free, military government officials still in office. You just never know. Yes, she's very careful with her words. Gold Digger says, okay, understood. Thank you. You're welcome, Gold Digger. Thank you for the support. I really do appreciate it. Special Master says black people are pissed because they just recently found out that they were sold by their own people in Africa. So one thing they did was join the LGBT. Okay, all right. We have some expressive Trump supporters in here. Special Master says when all they had to do was be strong and be themselves. Okay, either bots or okay, I'll keep it there.
And that he's continued to get help, and that's what I know, and that's what I appreciate, that he was not sober. He was not sober then, and he has made a decision for himself to get his life together, and he's been doing that. And that's how, that's what I know, and that's how I feel about it.
A lot of people have painted a pretty dark picture of what he was like in that period, that he was, we've all read about the freak-off parties, we've read about the violence, intimidation, and so on. Do you genuinely believe he's a reformed character? Some will say, lepers don't change their spots, that if he gets out and doesn't have to face any jail time or be held accountable for the things he's been found guilty of, notwithstanding you saying there's no precedent for jailing somebody in that position, they will say that if you put it all together, you got a guy that behaved pretty bad.
So within the last 7 days, it came out, I guess, maybe from Agnifilo, I'm not sure, allegedly, that Diddy would be perhaps becoming a counselor or a therapist. So I think that's where a lot of pushback came, and this question that he's asking her pretty much paints the same picture.
Bradley, who ultimately, if he walks free, will have had no actual genuine accountability. What do you say to people that have that concern?
Well, I think that we need to break that down a little bit, because what was going on and the privacy of his bedroom with his girlfriends, consensual adults, I don't think we should put that in the same category. Now,
I think that's a tough argument to make, being that people saw the video of the girl being kicked. Dirt Town says, is this when we feel sorry for him? Okay. Amanda says, I think he needs to do more time behind bars because people's lives have been threatened for speaking up against him. Okay, thanks for your expression. All right, Special Master still going at it. I fear reading your comment based on the negative words that came out previously, but I may give you another chance. Reverend Greenback says, question for the host, is the media handling Maxwell differently than Diddy? I would say by a long shot, and also Epstein as well. I went over that today at lunch. They gave Epstein a sweetheart deal. Maxwell is getting a sweetheart deal now compared to what Diddy is getting. So there is a discrepancy there. I will say that. All right. Good evening, old man. How is your health? Here we go. We have the continuation of the bots. You just have to love it. All right. Keep them in there. We need the added attention, folks. The added attention. They love it.
He human? Yes. Did he make some mistakes in his life? Absolutely. Is he getting help for those mistakes?
Life's an adventure, and the 2025 Honda Ridgeline is built for all of it. Whether it's tax.
Yes. And so I think that we have to look at it, from that perspective, and not start, to say that everything that he did, including, you know, sex with his girlfriends, was something wrong. That's their bedroom.
Do you believe
do you want the federal government in your bedroom?
Yeah, I was going to say, no, absolutely not. And do you feel that what the trial established was that actually, despite the claim of the people who were making allegations against him, that everything actually the jury determined turned out, in their eyes, to be consensual? It may not be everyone's cup of tea. It might not be the kind of behavior in a bedroom that some people find acceptable, but it didn't cross the line of being criminal, and it was all consensual.
Absolutely. That's why the jury found him not guilty of sex trafficking. No force, no fraud, no coercion. Those were two grown ladies. They were his girlfriends. And, you know, the jury saw straight through sex trafficking. So, yes, it was consensual and it was not illegal what they were doing, although that may not be what everybody's doing in their bedrooms. Totally understand that. But it was not criminal.
Do you guys agree with that statement that it wasn't criminal? They were just acting on what normal people do? Tell us what you think.
How significant do you think the testimony of the guy the escort who called himself the Punisher was? Because I interviewed him and I believed him. I thought he was very credible, and he certainly painted a very different picture of what had gone on to the way Cassie Ventura had described it. He made it clear that in his eyes, she was the person who organized everything, booked him, paid for it, and seemed very happy about everything, thoroughly enjoyed all their encounters over, I think, a 2-year period. I felt he was both in the court, but also in subsequent interviews.
Okay, Reverend Greenback says it was not criminal. Joe Flores says it was not criminal. Okay, Emma says not when you don't know you're being drugged. Okay, all right, thank you. Special Master says Diddy got away with it because people worshiped him and didn't speak up. It was fun for a while to them. I pray Trump doesn't raise a pinky to save his rear end. Okay, thank you, Special Master. That was much better, much better. John says just another sad attempt to cause trouble with what the president is doing. Okay, so this has something to do with Trump.
Interviews, a pretty powerful advocate for your defense.
Agreed. You know, I'll tell you, I really do not know why the government called him, but glad they did. So, agree. I think he was powerful, and I think he said a lot. Yeah.
I mean, the irony is he was called for the prosecution, and yet he turned out to be a powerful weapon for you guys.
Shop Raymore and Flanagan now and save up to 20% on your purchase during the Buy More, Save More sale.
Agreed.
How is Sean Diddy Combs in himself now? He's been in prison for a sustained period of time. He's not been with his family. He's got a lot of kids. You know, how would you characterize his state of mind?
Wow, this is definitely the hardest situation he's ever been through in his life.
Well, it must be tough when they put all your private business on the main street, that's for sure. I Want a Better World says, wait a second, the only problem here was that they had a weak case. What about the young girls? What about drugging people beyond being able to consent? You know, people are so easily gullible. Thank you for your comment. Gold Digger says, it's good that he's getting help. What went on in the bedroom was beyond just physical abuse and disturbing. D-rugs in the bedroom is not normal. Escorts have said they saw abuse in front of them. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comment, Gold Digger. Eric agrees with that. Emma says his choices made him react. He needs to be punished for his choice to hit. That should have consequences, surely. Okay, Charm Lamb says not criminal. They are contradictions in Cassie's lawsuit and her actual testimony. I can agree with that. John Brokenshire, thank you guys. Thank all the new names that I'm seeing coming through. I really do appreciate the support. Every few years, someone sends white powder and it turns out to be nothing but something that causes trouble. Okay. Reverend Greenback says junkie couples fight all the time, and it's been said they usually remain together longer than most. Okay, I can see some truth in that. Emma says exactly. I agree with being drugged and not knowing. He's still not right in the head. Okay, he's not right in the head.
You know, I think that he's trying to stay positive. He is trying to continue to fight. He's trying to be a father from jail, which is very hard and very complicated. And so, you know, I think that he's doing a lot of thinking, and he's continuing to work on himself, and, you know, he's still trying to be a parent and, you know, just get his life together. But this is definitely, this is the hardest thing he's been through in his life. And
speaking of his kids, during the closing arguments, Marc Agnifilo actually pointed to Diddy's 6 children that were sitting on one row along with his mother. And he also mentioned that there was another child, I guess, underage, maybe around a year old. I don't think they mentioned the age, but that's the age, I think, somewhere in that ballpark. So that's just an added little fact about what happened at the case. They were all there except the small child.
I think that he's taking it a day at a time.
Were you surprised that a federal judge on Monday denied the motion to allow him to be released on bail? The prosecutors argued he was a flight risk and a danger. The judge said that you guys had failed to show sufficient evidence to counter the argument that he's a flight risk. But on the danger point, there was a letter from his ex-girlfriend, Virginia Huyn, to the judge, urging his release, saying he didn't represent a danger. Were you surprised, given all that he wasn't allowed out?
You know, I think that the judge made his decision. You know, what I really take issue with is the prosecution. I take issue with the prosecution bringing this case in the first place. So I think the judge, you know, made whatever decision that he felt like he needed to. But I think that the real issue is the prosecution having this type of discretion and being able to engage in selective prosecution and targeted prosecution and you know, to have that type of power. I think that's the real issue.
Now, notice you used the word targeted. That's something that came up in the trial that I thought was quite compelling as well. Marc Agnifilo made an argument that the judge wasn't happy with when he spoke to the jury, because he made a point of how the victims, I won't say their name, but these victims, they didn't go down to the Southern District of New York and say, hey, Sean Diddy Combs did these things to me. He said basically they went to a civil attorney, in other words, an attorney where you can get back some money from. So based on that argument, he said that the Southern District of New York targeted Diddy. They saw this lawsuit that Cassie had filed against him and chose to come after him. So that argument showed that they targeted him. And I think that had a big impression, because it was at that moment, too, that Marc Agnifilo told the jury that you cannot trust the government. And in essence, the judge reprimanded him for it. And also the prosecutor said, hey, he's out of pocket for saying this to the jury. And they had a big debate about that whole saga.
I just want to play again. This is the actual clip of Donald Trump talking about the possibility of a pardon.
You know, I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great, and seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him well. But when I ran for office, he was very hostile. He made some terrible statements. So I don't know. It's more difficult. It makes it more. I'm being honest. It makes it more difficult to do.
But more likely a no for Combs.
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally, what is your message to Donald Trump if he's watching this?
So what's your answer What would be your comment to Donald Trump? Let me hear what you guys have to say. I enjoy reading the comments. Emma says, I wasn't thinking. I don't normally watch lives, but this is shocking to me. The man is guilty of it, and I feel it's not criminal to have S acts. It's criminal what's at them. And I guess you're alluding to not necessarily the baby oil, but perhaps the drugs and some of the other activity. Gold Digger says getting clean detox from the drugs will give himself the chance to hopefully focus on his family. Kids need fathers that can lead them in life and not the heavily under the influence of substances. Okay, Emma says, sorry I said the word. Just realized I removed the post. Sorry, but it's mad how this has gone the way it is. Trump also at his parties. This is mad. I have not heard of Donald Trump being at any of his parties. I can confirm that that was not in court, so not sure where that's coming from. I'll just leave it at that. No, Emma, nobody's upset with you. Enjoy yourself. All is well. We welcome you and come back as many times as you like. Let's get back to it.
To look at the case and make his decisions from there. I think that pardon him would be the right thing to do, given the history of the Mann Act. You know, if I'm not mistaken, President Trump pardoned Jack Johnson, and the Mann Act was used against him. And so, you know, if he has the opportunity to look through the case and make his decisions from there. I think looking through the case and the history of the Mann Act and where we are now, and that this type of behavior, you know, is not being prosecuted. It's not. Mr. Combs was prosecuted because he's Sean Puffy Combs, and that's just not right, and it's not fair, and he does not deserve to be where he is right now because of the Mann Act. He just doesn't deserve that, and so we just like fairness. We like fairness, and I'm hopeful that, you know, at the end of the day, that a fair outcome will come from this, and that somehow this will turn itself around to be something positive.
Nicole Westmoreland, I really appreciate you coming on Uncensored. It was a very interesting interview. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that was Nicole Westmoreland from Atlanta, Georgia. I believe that area, that's where she practiced. She practices, I believe, along with Brian Steele, and I think they both worked on the Young Thug case, if you want to check out a little of their history. Charm Lamb says the president shouldn't make decisions based on feelings, only facts. That's right. Okay, thank you very much. I think a lot of people feel that way. Emma says they're trying to flip the script. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Emma. Thanks for not being intimidated. Thanks for staying around. We're not trying to push you around or anything. Reverend Greenback says, does anyone believe that Epstein associated with Diddy? They both homes nearby each other. All right. Not sure about that. Haven't heard anything about it. Maybe someone else would like to answer that. All right, folks. So that covers Nicole Westmoreland. We're going to cover one more video that I saw. I didn't get a chance to look at this yet, but we're going to check it out tonight, and hopefully we can keep the sound, folks. We need sound to get around, right? And thank you to everybody who stuck around when we lost sound. You guys are like the best ever. You know, you didn't leave me. Thank you so much. Let's try this.
It was clear. I think our last interview was me walking and talking with you, and you just talking about the defense that you were building, and that was it. After that,
we were pretty shut down during the trial by design. You know, we had asked the judge actually for a little bit of a gag order, and the judge gave it to us, so we had to.
Now, I had a chance to meet both of these individuals at the trial, but I'll tell you, the reporter, I don't want to say her name unless it's actually there, but let me tell you, she's at the top of her game. Probably one of the most well-spoken individuals I've ever met.
Wanted to sort of abide by that and kind of keep it, you know, out of the press. I mean, try the case in the courtroom, which we feel that we did.
So, of course, I want to start with July 2nd.
Okay.
You go up to the microphone. There's about a dozen microphones.
And again, guys, this is Marc Agnifilo, Sean Diddy Combs' lead attorney. He's the one that led him to the finish line.
There, everyone's smiling.
Right.
You step up first. You're the lead attorney for this case.
Mm-hmm.
Today is a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system.
So I said to him, no, Nigel, not without the brie. And
You said you saw this coming.
Yeah, I saw it coming.
That morning.
I did. I saw it coming. I saw it coming that morning when the jury said that they had verdicts on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5, but not on count 1. I thought that it must be that they split on the Mann Acts on the one side and then the sex trafficking on the other side, because if it would have been all the way one or the other, they would have agreed, I think, on the racketeering conspiracy. So my guess was that they convicted him of the prostitution, the Mann Act counts, and acquitted on the sex trafficking.
Take me back to just that moment, because I've heard you talk about how you didn't really sleep a lot during this trial.
True.
And that you typically don't sleep a lot to begin with. But what went into this case? It had to be, I'm sure, the most publicized in the 35 years that you've been practicing law.
True. Yes, definitely the most publicized of my entire career, by a long way. I mean, Ranieri was publicized, Martin Shkreli was publicized. I've been blessed to have a lot of cases that people care about, but nothing close to this. And the press was every little thing. I mean, I thought the press was very aware of what was going on in the courtroom. They covered it very closely. I thought they covered it actually fairly accurately. And so it was a tremendous amount of preparation, a lot of pressure trying to keep the team together, a lot of pressure because, Sean Combs, I mean, I believed in my heart that he was innocent. The prostitution's tricky, but we're still sort of fighting that. And so there's a lot of pressure to win. And that's what this was all about.
For people who were not inside the courtroom, there was cheering, praying, celebration. There was a moment where Combs had his hand up, and in real time, we're watching as a decision is made and he's not going to speak. It seemed like he wanted to say something in that moment. Is that true, or what was going on?
I think he did. I think he wanted to speak to the judge. I think he's not someone who's used to people speaking on his behalf.
So just to give you a little context, it was the same day that the verdict came down. At the end of the day, as I told you previously, the judge had said, well, I'm sure Mr. Combs don't want to go back to the MDC or whatever you want to call it, the jail, right? So at the end of the day, when the judge was dropping the hammer saying that Sean Diddy Combs was not going home, at some point while Marc Agnifilo was standing up talking with the judge, Diddy raised both hands and he was trying to speak to the judge, but the judge basically referred everything back to Marc Agnifilo. He talked to Diddy and expressed the point. So that's what they're actually talking about at this moment.
I mean, I think he became Sean Combs, and he built all the things that he built by being the front and center guy. And this was a real adjustment for him. And so I think it's not natural for him to sit back and let others speak on his behalf. But we also told him that was best and that's what was going to happen. And he agreed.
Was this the most challenging case that you've ever tried in your career?
That's a great question. It's up there. I mean, I've had missile trafficking, trials. I've had political corruption trials. When I was a prosecutor, I prosecuted serial killer hitmen, so they're all different. This was probably the most difficult in terms of getting the team together. I never had a defense team like in this case, and I was lucky to have such a great group of lawyers. But
from all over the country.
From all over the country. I mean, we had Brian Steele and Nicole Westmoreland from Atlanta. I mean, gifted, great lawyers. We had Xavier Donaldson, Alexander Shapiro, Jason Driscoll, Anna Esteval, me and Tenny. And so we really had this great group of lawyers, but we needed a leader, and I'm not really a natural leader. I'm just not. I'm a trial lawyer. It's different. It's a different skill set. And I've never really tried to be a leader or had to be a leader. I'm a soldier, and I'm proud to be a soldier. So this was a different role, and I had to kind of like step into the role. I mean, I kind of saw my team needed that, and we needed harmony. We needed, you know, we have great lawyers who are used to all being front and center. You know, we all needed, including myself, we have to leave our egos at the door. You know, we have to do what's best for Mr. Combs. And so that was challenging. And then, you know, the government was very well prepared. They had 6 outstanding prosecutors. I mean, it's a marquee case for what many say is the best prosecutor's office maybe in the world, the Southern District of New York. And this is probably their biggest case of the, you know, not so new century. And so it was high.
Yeah, I think it was the biggest case of a century indeed. Reverend Greenback says, get her on the show. Okay, I'll try to do that for you. Greg Clive says, filthy chomo lover. Okay. All right. Gold Digger says, but history shows us Trump's actions, such as the Capitol rioters. Okay. All right. Emma says, name dropping. Okay, you're talking about when he mentioned the other attorneys. Okay, very good. Emma says, yeah, I think a good few people should watch this, and it's actually showing me the justice system also. You can learn a lot by this. The justice system is broken, and it definitely needs to be fixed.
Stakes. It's, you know, it's Game 7 in Yankee Stadium, and so it's pressure.
The stakes are still high. Presently, just this week, the judge, Arun Subramanian, said no to bail. Second time that he's done this.
It's true.
How many times have you sought bail for Sean Combs?
So I've counted, because I've never been 0 for 5 in a case in my career. And I've tried to get bail for Mr. Combs 5 times, and I'm 0 for 5. So, I mean, I made the Yankee Stadium reference. If I was up at bat, and 0 for 5, you know, outing is not so great.
Does that hurt you later with sentencing, just because you have made these arguments over and over again, obviously with different judges, but with this judge twice, and more recently, the judge cited evidence of violence and coercion, and said that concerns about Combs' safety, the judge said that he acknowledged the staff had been able to keep him safe even during an incident of threatened violence from an inmate. So in your opinion, you speak to Sean Combs often. What is going on at the Metropolitan Detention Center that you're saying you believe he's in danger?
So he's a very public personality, and it was a very public trial. I think that there is always the risk that some people are going to be envious or jealous, maybe jealous that he might be going home before they do. And so, you know, I think it's been more challenging for the outstanding staff at the MDC to kind of step up, do the things that they need to do to keep, you know, Mr. Combs safe. And they've been doing that, and they've been outstanding with us. And I know that they get their, you know, more than their share of grief from time to time, but they've been very, very good with us, and very, very good with Mr. Combs. And I really appreciate the way they've handled things. But it's
Had
a
you brought
challenging
that issue up
situation.
before, though, or is this something that had been building because of recent incidents? You talked about in your document, you said that there was an inmate that was stabbed just above Combs. So help us understand sort of from September of 2024 to now how things have changed and why that's something that you brought up.
I think that's largely the other stabbing. I think is largely anecdotal. I don't know that has anything to do with our case or Mr.
So they're making the argument that Sean Diddy Combs' life is, you know, on the line here in a dangerous environment at the MDC. All right. Roberta says the laws are red and black and white, but they are Kerry and white and gray. Okay. Thank you for your point. Ivan says Democrats are on the prowl. Diddy won't see the light of day. This guy is nothing but a money bag. Diddy made him rich. Okay, so you think it was a money grab. Okay. Greg says no faith in laws, government, celebrities anymore. I can't even watch the movie without worrying if actors are chomos. Okay. All right. Emma says, oh, well, what about the woman he hit? Okay, good question. Good question. Let's get back to it.
Combs. I think it does not have anything to do with it.
Okay.
But what I've seen, you know, and what he tells me is that it's a little different ever since the verdict, you know, and maybe it's because he's perceived.
Good or bad?
I've recently come to learn that a lot of founders and marketers don't quite know how to look up the competitor's marketing strategy.
A little more tense, not from the staff, but from certain people, other inmates. And so, I think that there are a lot of people who really support him among the inmate population. I think a lot of.
Do you guys feel it's a solid argument that his life is in jeopardy and that's the reason why he needs to make bail? What do you guys think?
A lot of inmates take faith and heart in the fact that someone has won. I mean, all they really tend to see is they lose. You go to trial and you lose, and that's what they see. And so the fact that Mr. Combs won his trial largely, not completely.
Okay, Greg says he should be scared. Greg says, I hope he's scared. Okay, Reverend Greenback says the women Diddy hit were complicit in soliciting freak-offs. Okay, Ivan says, I did punch the like button automatically. Oops, the chat is moving so fast, sorry. All right, when I enter this great building, I will continue to support the channel. Okay, we won a new subscriber. Thank you, Ivan, for being here. Real talk. I enjoy having each and every one of you. Okay, Joe says, I think there would always be a lot of jealousy with the person in his position. Yes, I do think his life is in jeopardy in jail. Okay, jeopardy in jail. That sounds like it has a little ring to it. Emma says they will try to get him a fancy place just for him. Okay, probably something like they're getting Maxwell. Eduardo says he's like the island, just small scale for celebrities. Okay, thank you very much for your comment. A lot of new names. Thank you guys for the support. Kevin says everybody's life is in danger inside and outside the walls. That's life, especially prison life. What more do you expect? That's a basic gist of your comment. Special Master says Trump will be Trump. If I bet the house, I'd bet to pardon him. By the way, everybody in prison is in an unsafe environment. I think in anything, he'll be a big shot. He is outside of prison. Okay, thank you for the comments. Keep them coming, folks. Keep them coming.
Of course, I think is seen as giving everybody a little bit of hope. That being said, I think that there's lots of different ways people can feel.
What about this consistent thread that Judge Submaranian continues to say? The judge has said the first time when he denied bail that there was an issue of violence and coercion. And he used those same words this week. Right. Your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts are he was convicted of, he was acquitted of coercion. I mean, that was the sex trafficking count. And a jury of 12 New Yorkers acquitted him of that. Now, I don't think that is going to play a role at the sentencing because he's being sentenced on straight prostitution. But in terms of
the violence, though, which you acknowledged in court when you opening statements, not from you, but Tenny, this is not about racketeering conspiracy. Was there domestic violence? Absolutely. No question. You own that.
We owned it. We owned it then. We own it now. I mean, I said it in the closing, and I say it now. That it's large. It's in the past for the most part. There's one event that happened in the summer of 2024 where the woman called Jane admits that she provoked, something that ended up being violent on both sides.
Reverend Greenback says Caspi should be locked up too. Eric says, let's see, if he has to do more time after October the 3rd, they might send him to Texas also. Okay, explain that to us. Tell us why he might go to Texas. Emma says, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. All right. Greg says in 1999, Diddy and J-Lo flew to Sydney, Australia, and Diddy grabbed I can't really get there. That might be against YouTube policies. Greg says nothing was done. Okay. I can't really read that. Roberta says, my personal experience inside the system, the real killers are the deputies. After they commit the crime, they'll put you in front of the camera and ask you if you witness anything. Okay, thank you for your comments.
His relationships were toxic. He's not proud of that. There was mutual violence, but that doesn't excuse a man being violent toward a woman ever. And we never said that it did. And so at the end of the day, he started seeking help, counseling. He was in a program before he was arrested in this case. He was productive. He was going, I'm in touch with the people in the program. And I think that when he gets out, he's going to start that again. I mean, the programming at the MDC is not great. It's really almost non-existent. So we've put together, therapists and people who go in and speak to Mr. Combs. And
how often?
Every 2 weeks. I mean, it's pretty regular. And we did it during the trial, but before the trial as well. And so and I think it's helpful. I mean, I think it's what he needs. I was in the DA's office when I was 25 years old, and
imagine bringing your side project to life just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
I probably had 200 cases. I bet 30 of them were domestic violence, mostly committed by men. And so this is a well-worn path, in the criminal justice system of men being violent with their domestic partners. And I think the best way to deal with it is therapy, counseling. A lot of times their partners don't want them to go to jail. They want them to get help. They want them to get better. They want them to be the men that they fell in love with, and that's really what I want for Mr. Combs.
When's the last time you spoke to him?
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Today.
What did he say?
We were just talking about, sentencing and some of the questions you're asking about, what does the judge's ruling on bail, how does that relate to sentencing? And I explained to him it really is two completely different things, and it's two different.
I could agree with that. Most people feel like because the judge keeps saying no to bail, that it has some sort of implication toward how much time he might get, and that he may not just get time served because the judge keeps saying no. So that's a good point that he's making. Whether you believe it or not, that's what people at large are saying.
Sort of bodies of laws and rules. So, the bases by which a judge can keep someone in jail are very different than the bases on which the judge sentences the person.
Do you speak to him every day?
Every day, several times a day.
Does he know you're doing this interview?
I think he does, but not from me.
Okay.
I think he was told.
Is there anything that he can say that he wanted to get through because you are now speaking more publicly about the case and just sort of what's next? But maybe a better question, what is it that Sean Combs wants people to know? Because he's, limited to what he can say.
Yeah. So he wants people.
So I guess I could say this, just to give you guys a little background. Marc Agnifilo's wife is a leading attorney too, and she's representing, or she's involved in a case with Luigi Mangione. So I look forward to that case. I had a chance to meet her too. So she looks like she's very sharp. She's also on the Midas Touch network as well. I see her on there just about every day.
To know that I think that he has reflected on the blessings that he's been given, on the imperfections that I think he sees in himself, just like we all have. I think he wants to be a better, more present father than he's ever been. I think he wants to start small. I think he wants to get out of jail, reestablish, a loving, present relationship with all of his 7 children. He wants to take care of his mother. His mother is she's going to get mad at me. She's getting older, but she's beautiful. And
that's right, Gold Digger. She says, I'm glad his attorney said that. No violence toward a woman ever. Yes, indeed. That's what we promote on this channel. You should never hit women, children. In fact, keep your hands to yourself. That's a good way to have a more balanced life instead of going around bullying other people, right? Verbally is just as bad, folks. Keep your words, your comments to yourself. Leave people alone and mind your business.
Fashionable as always. But he wants to get back in his life. I think the larger goals are down the road. Does he want to get back into music? Does he want to get back into business? I think he's someone who is always going to strive to do something, exceptional and probably demanding and challenging. But I think the most demanding and challenging thing in front of him right now is to get back with his kids and get back with his mother and the people who love him and miss him.
So he's talked to you about getting back into music if he's released?
No, honestly, he has not.
Okay.
One thing he said he's going to be back in Madison Square Garden.
He said that?
He did. He said to me, he's going to be back in Madison Square Garden.
Doing what?
I guess being on stage, and I said, I'll be there. I want to be right in the front.
Okay, so are you guys going to Madison Square if Diddy has a big welcome home, welcome back concert? Tell us how you feel.
So we'll see. We'll make it happen.
So you talk to him every day. How long do these conversations typically last?
Sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 15 minutes, usually several times a day. Either on this something called the VTC. It's like a Zoom setup. I go see him. I'm going to see him tomorrow morning. So I spend a lot of time physically with him in the jail, but also on these videos.
Mark, I know there's been so much celebration about what he was acquitted of, but he's still facing 2 felony convictions. Each count carries up to 10 years behind bars. Are you
So we're predominantly getting no's. People do not want to go to the Madison Square for a Diddy concert. Greg says Diddy and Epstein were friends. Do you have any proof of that, Greg? Tell us if you do. Reverend Greenback says hell no. Okay, all right, a lot of no's. Andre says no Madison Square Garden. Emma says would if, and it's cut off. Reverend Greenback says nope. Okay, very good. Bordeaux says welcome in and thank you for being here. Please hit the like button. All opinions are welcome. Please be respectful with the words in the chat. Okay, we need those great reminders. Emma says if anyone goes, should be ashamed of themselves. Okay, thank you. Eric says no Diddy concert for me. I'll be home watching the world. Thank you very much, Eric. That's awfully kind of you. You're far too kind, my good friend. JDP says, I second that. Okay, for Eric. Teresa Dunn, no way should Diddy be let out. You're asking for revenge to the people. He has, we can't use that word, grape. He has killed people, unalive people, money launder, and he was with Epstein Oh, no. I don't think there's any proof of Diddy and Epstein, but we are open to ideas, but I don't believe so.
Preparing him for the worst, or are you optimistic that he's not going to get a lot of time, if any time, or he'll get a pardon?
Right. The pardon, that's not my end of the business. I know really nothing about that.
But you're the lead attorney, and Nicole Westmoreland said that there have been conversations.
She did. I know mostly what I know from what the president.
Okay, so that's why we saw the previous video. We wanted to see what Westmoreland said versus what he's saying, and we've already found a contradiction. We found a contradiction, folks.
The president has said.
But wait, how are you the lead attorney? And she's saying that the team has had conversations with the White House, with the administration.
I can just tell you what I have had conversations with nobody.
You haven't spoken to the president?
I have not. No, not. I have not spoken to the president. I have not spoken to anybody who speaks to the president about Sean Combs. I have not.
So she said, and I just want to quote.
Tell us in the comments, who do you believe, her or him or nobody at all?
Nicole Westmoreland, who's part of the team, said that it's her understanding that we have reached out and had conversations, that they have spoken to people who would be responsible for the pardon process. And at a time where I think there's a lot of attention, not just on the president and his actions, but on what will happen here with Sean Combs. You mean to tell me that you really have nothing to do with a possible pardon right now?
Nothing. I have nothing to do with a possible pardon. I mean, I have my hands full with, with sentencing and bail. I mean, really, I'm not involved at all. So,
okay.
Like I said, I know it's in.
You would be honest with me, right?
Of course I would. I'm on TV.
Okay.
I mean, it's. I know it's out there. Right. I know it's out there. I know that every once in a while the president will say something about it. I don't know how seriously the president's taking it. I don't know kind of where his.
Okay, Emma says, act like he doesn't understand. Reverend Greenback says, body language alert. Okay, you see some weird body language. We're going to have the body language expert back on next week. I'll make sure I show her this part of the video to see what she thinks. Emma says, oh, let's play dumb. Reverend Greenback says he nods his head. Yes. Okay. He thinks there's a contradiction. Emma says he's bricking it. He's throwing those hard bricks, folks. Greg Clive says Trump wants tips from Diddy. He will pardon him. Okay. Teresa Dunn says nobody at all. No pardon, Trump. he's where he should be. Okay, so you think he should be locked up and throw away the key? Oh no. Reverend Greenback says, hands grasping for the win. Okay.
Mind is with it, but I know that I want to work really hard to get him a good sentence.
What is Sean Combs saying about the possibility of a pardon? Is he asking you, the team, see what you can do by any means necessary? Like, what is his take on what he's willing to do or go through to be free?
I think he knows I'm not political. So he doesn't talk to me about it at all. I mean, we've never discussed it other than I tell him what's in the news about it. But
and what's his reaction? Does he laugh? Does he say, let's look into it? What does he say?
Go tell him that I need a pardon. Go tell him I deserve a pardon. That's what he said. Go tell him I deserve a pardon. And I say, all right, so let's talk about your sentencing.
So you steer him.
Guys, I think I'm with Special Master. If I was his attorney, calling the president would have been the very first thing I did. That's probably one of the best answers I've seen in a while. I would like to get ahead of the storm. That's the way I like to operate. Charmland says 2 things could be true. Okay, Ron Swanson, I think you're coming back. Welcome back. Says what the cancer patient and the retired escort has been doing for the past 4 years instead of releasing the Epstein files. Okay, Ron Swanson. Tommy says money talks, bullshit walks. I think money would have moved the cursor in the case of Donald Trump.
Back to what you're facing right now.
Yes, very much so. I'm a one-trick pony. I really am. I'm a courtroom guy. That's what I do. That's my forum. That's all I know. I'm a registered independent.
I saw this guy at work for about 8 weeks, and let me tell you, he's really good at what he does. Whether people like it or not, the guy has a lot of talent. And at first, I was a little shaky about him because he was very apologetic. Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. Brian Steele is very straightforward. That's why we saw him basically get locked up in the Young Thug case, because he was combative with the judge, but he performs at a high level. Do not get me wrong. But Marc Agnifilo's style was sarcastic. Sometimes he made the jurors laugh a lot. He was telling jokes. He really made the baby oil and the Astroglide come to life, because he's basically, when he had the agents on the stand, he was like, so you guys go in and you take all of this baby oil and Astroglide off the street. You save the day. You save, So now the juror, I could see them coming to life with these type of statements. So he made a big impact. I'm telling you, he's a top-notch attorney, whether you want to believe it or not.
I'm not political, and so I don't do anything about that.
So going back to the serious.
And I say that to say that has nothing to do per se with Diddy and what Diddy's on trial for. I'm speaking about his talent as an attorney.
Nature still of felony convictions. How are you preparing him? Are you telling him, listen, it could be on the higher side, it could be consecutively versus concurrently?
So I just found out that if you're flying to the UK, you actually need something called an.
So I tell them what the guidelines are, and the guidelines are about 2 or 3 years. And I tell them, the judge could go above the guidelines. That's rare, but possible. The judge could go below the guidelines. That's less rare in the Southern District of New York, and possible.
Gold Digger, you make a solid point. She says, well, the same team has 2 different stories. They're already falling apart. That's a contradiction, right, Gold Digger? Thank you for highlighting that as well. Thank you guys for all the participation. I really do appreciate it. And please hit the like button, share, and subscribe too if you like the material.
And, the emphasis now is the same as the emphasis on the trial, is just to put the best effort forward to show Judge Subramanian all the reasons why, leniency is appropriate, why the violence is in his past, why he's dealing with the violence. And at the end of the day, he wasn't convicted for anything having to do with violence. I mean, the jury affirmatively acquitted him of all of that. So we have to make all of those arguments the right way, the legal way, to the court.
Because this bail was denied, and that's what sort of we're dealing with now, it's less than 60 days before October 3rd is still the day.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think will happen on sentencing day?
I can't possibly, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I think Judge Subramanian's been fair throughout. He'll be fair here. our fate is in our own hands, I feel. I feel like if we do a good job explaining the situation to our judge, I think we'll get a fair and reasonable sentence. I hope Mr. Combs goes home soon. I think he's paid a tremendous debt for what he's done. He's done things wrong. He was convicted of crimes, and he's done other things wrong. And we were forthcoming, as part of our trial presentation as to all of that. And I think in some ways he's a better person because of it.
What does he tell his children?
I actually don't know. I mean, I know he talks to them a lot. They're very present in his life.
I was going to say, day one, we saw 6 of his 7 children in the courtroom. You said that in your conversations with him, he talks about, wanting to establish that relationship, wanting to get back home. How difficult, I guess, has that been for him, trying to father behind bars, from behind bars?
It's very difficult.
So let me take a moment to give myself a few points here. Throughout the course of the trial, I took a lot of video of Diddy's children, family, all sorts of people going in and out the courtroom. So if you would like to see some of that footage, go back and look at some of the shorts and some of the videos, and please give it a like if you like it. But you'll get to see some of the behind the scenes, I call it, items that they're referring to here.
Difficult because 4 of the kids, with him in jail, 4 of the kids have no parents at all. I mean, their mother passed away, and Mr. Combs is in jail. Porter. Correct. And I think he feels very, very bad about that. And I think he feels like he really wants to get back so that those kids have a parent, present to be their father.
All right. Debbie says he's a piece of dirt. Oh my. Tommy says, hello, anybody can see this? No way, man. Green Mile. Okay. Lord of the Pancakes is back. Welcome back. We missed you. I can see through the lies and corruption of the Jedi Council. Okay. Teresa Dunn says, how can you want an angry, violent man out on the streets of California? Okay. Thank you very much for that comment as well. Everybody is expressive. Lord of the Pancakes says, more lies and deception from the Jedi Council. They agreed, and a list of power has brought continued conflict to the galaxy, not peace. Okay. All right. And let's see. Richard says, free Kells. He want R. Kelly out. Tommy says he's a rat. Okay.
Because they don't have a mother at this point, which is, tragic in general, but doubly tragic because, Mr. Combs is in jail.
A number of friends and family, I understand, have submitted letters. Was that for the bail hearing? Was that for the sentencing?
So it's for the sentencing.
And what are we to make of someone who accused Combs of domestic violence 5 years ago in a podcast, who then wrote a letter saying he's a good person, and today I believe doubled down on an Instagram post saying, why can't people accept that you can forgive people and move on? For those who will look at a letter from someone who was supposed to be victim number 3 in this case and go, she must have been paid, or the attorney clearly wrote that letter. What do you say to that?
She wasn't paid and the attorney didn't write it. I mean, I know she has a lawyer. I don't know between her and her lawyer how that letter was made, but I have every reason to believe that those are her genuine sentiments. And if her lawyer helped her write it, that sometimes happens. I think she's exactly right. And I think she would know. And I don't think she's here to just do him favors. I think this is how she genuinely feels. And I thought that her letter was very balanced. I think she said, was their relationship perfect? It wasn't perfect. I mean, and she led with that. And she said, but he always tried to do better. She saw him as a father and a loving figure. And I think this is all about redemption. I mean, I was raised Catholic, and I believe in redemption. And I think this is a story.
What they're talking about is an interview that Tasha K, which you guys have seen me on her show various times. Tasha K is definitely good in my book, excellent. But she interviewed a lady that dated Diddy by the name of Gina. So if you want to hear the backdrop on the story, you could go watch it on Tasha K. I think it's Unwind with Tasha K. You'll see the interview with Gina. That's who they're talking about. She was supposed to be victim number 3, did not show up to court, and now she's writing a letter in favor of Sean Diddy Combs.
Of redemption. And I think that's what he wants. He's religious as well. He was raised Catholic and Baptist. He went to Catholic high school. He went to Catholic church every Sunday. He went to Baptist church as well because of his grandmother. And I think he is telling a story of redemption. I think the Sean Combs story is a story of redemption and how important redemption is. And redemption as a function of character, both for the person who's asking for the redemption and for the people who we are asking to redeem that person. And I don't think it's a great gesture of character to carry anger. I think that's what Gina's follow-up is saying. I think it's a great gesture of character if someone really deserves redemption to let them achieve that. And that's really the Combs story right now, is one of redemption.
I want to go back to that last day in court for you, giving your closing argument, 4.5 hours. I heard in another interview that you had something ready and then you weren't comfortable with it and you went on a walk and you just came with what you said is, tell me a story.
Right.
Wanting to connect with the jury, which you believe, you had the shared experience with. Some criticized, what you had to say and how you said it. I remember doing an Instagram post myself where you talked about, oh, the Astroglide is off the streets, and you said it in a way that was kind of...
That's the comment that I was referring to.
Mocking the fact that a lot went into raiding someone's home and this is what they found. When you look back at that, explain to us, to the viewers, why you felt it was so important to not necessarily have everything written down, not stay behind the podium, but to use your hands to move back and forth. Again, there were no cameras in the courtroom, so we are the eyes and ears for the public, but...
Okay, JDP says, I don't believe this guy. Okay, Special Master says, this guy could sell ice in Antarctica. Okay, all right. Andre says, some parent to have. Okay, Teresa says, no, I believe that father would say to him, I never knew you. His evil went too far. Okay, so he was off the charts. Diane says, wow, what a story. I can't believe it either. Okay, thank you.
What went into that? How you were feeling? I mean, to be up there for 4.5 hours.
Teenagers are building businesses with AI, while the only AI is ChatGPT. Let's be real.
I had prepared an outline, and the night before I read it over, and it was factually fine, but it was stale. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't a great story. And I just wanted to tell the jury the story. And so I knew what I wanted to say.
Right.
And I knew that the jury had paid very close attention. So they didn't need me to put emails up on the screen for them to see for the 23rd time. The text messages or whatever the written communications were, they knew that stuff. And they paid very close attention to the testimony. They all took notes.
The judge kind of wanted him to stay behind the podium, but he could not. He just kept walking around all over the place. But then I think it was a part of his whole scheme,
17 jurors took notes throughout the entire trial. So they knew this stuff. But they didn't.
Basically, he put on a show for the jury.
Here, and I didn't think the government really gave them a story. They didn't hear the story of this case, and so I just wanted to tell them a story. And I wanted to put my notes down. I only have 3 pages of handwritten notes anyway, and talk to them and look them in the face and, kind of look at them individually and sort of say, this is the story of this case. This is what the evidence shows.
There's a moment I think lawyers know when they have the audience, the jury. When was that for you?
So it's funny. It's a good question. I wasn't sure if I was going to be sarcastic or not. I wanted to sort of see how it would go. So when I was cross-examining one of the agents.
There it is. I told you he's very sarcastic in his delivery to the jury.
I asked him, I said, so how many cases, how many search warrants have you recovered Astroglide? And he says, 1. I go, this one. And he was did terrorism cases and all these serious cases. And so I realized, and the jury.
I remember that moment.
Kind of laughed at that. And so I realized that's going to be my jumping off point because I already have that kind of in the record. So early in my summation, I did the whole thing with, thank goodness they got the Astroglide, they got it off the street. And the jury reacted, well. They laughed. They kind of got it. And there's aspects of this trial.
Most people in the courtroom were laughing.
I mean, sarcasm could be a very effective tool, you know, and as a storyteller, you want to use your full complement of tools, and it's sincerity and it's sometimes sarcasm. But at a certain point, it's not so much that I realized that I had the jury. I realized I was with the jury, you know, and that's kind of.
Oh, and by the way, there was a time where he broke down crying too. I mean, he was crying really hard talking about one of Diddy's relationships. So it was quite intriguing.
Really where I want to be, you know, and I want to sort of be whatever their space is. I want to be in their space with them. And I realized that I was doing that. I was in that space with them. They were paying very close attention. They were kind of with me on, you know, the different arguments. I kind of knew when they were ready for me to move on, you know, and that's one of the things, and this is really a trial lawyer thing more than something unique to Combs. Mm-hmm. Trial lawyers need to get rid of their notes. You know, I mean, you're talking to a jury, so be with the jury. You know, be with the jury. Where are they done on this topic? Then move on. Mm-hmm. If you had another 3 pages, forget it. You know, it's time to move on. And they throw off an energy. You know, there's something about a jury of people all compressed in a jury box that they actually throw off a lot of information. Mm-hmm. And if you're attuned to it and you're not staring at your notes and you're looking at them and you're feeling them, you'll know exactly what to do next. And that's what the summation was.
So when you think about the very beginning and your first meeting with Sean Combs, what was it about this case that you said, I really want to represent you? Mm-hmm. Obviously, you had a lot of experience with racketeering conspiracy, but you didn't have to take.
So guys, we're about to hit 2 hours. So we're going to break this down. We'll make this the last question, and maybe we'll get back to this video the next time we talk about Sean Diddy Combs.
Take this case on.
No, I thought he was being targeted. I genuinely did. I thought that he's an outspoken guy. He ruffles feathers, you know, and I thought they were looking to get him unfairly. I really believe that. The government, you know, the government. And I thought he didn't do these things. I mean, I knew, because he was honest with me throughout. I mean, I knew there was issues in the past, you know, with domestic violence and with his girlfriends. But that's not what they were looking to charge him with.
He was honest with you throughout. So did you know before the video was released of Cassie Ventura being slapped and kicked and punched that happened?
Well, I knew from her lawsuit, certainly, because
Fate says money is what made this guy really want to take this case. Okay, true. Eric says true to you. Fate. Special Master says this attorney is paid to continue as a lawyer for Diddy even long after the case is closed. How long officially is he demanded to be the spokesperson for Diddy? Wow, a lot of money racking up. Special Master, your comments have become much wonderful, much better, much wonderful. All right, thank you very much for that. Andre says, yap and fame. Okay, thank you.
Filed the lawsuit.
But you also know then that his reaction in the beginning was, this is outrageous.
Before I got involved in the case, I think that I've seen that. Yes.
But when you were involved, that video didn't come out yet.
The video didn't come out.
But when it did,
right.
How did that change your relationship or any questions you had about someone you said had been forthcoming and someone that you trusted? Because
I had known that there was violence between him and Cassie.
Okay.
I mean, listen, I don't know why his
But you didn't
lawyers,
know about the video prior to it coming out?
I didn't know that there was a video. I didn't know there was a video.
And when you saw that video, how did you feel personally?
It was a rough day. I remember thinking this is just a terrible piece of evidence. It takes all the guesswork out of this aspect of the case. And I remember thinking they're going to indict him. They're not going to start this investigation. Then this video falls into their lap and they're not going to indict him. He's definitely going to get indicted.
Because that played so big in this case, as you know, early on, even the idea of paying someone to make sure that this doesn't see the light of day, is that something that was revealed to you in any way, shape, or form? Maybe not seeing the video, obviously, or knowing the details of it outside of, okay, this is someone I'm representing who has admitted that there was some violence.
Okay, Eric says attorneys always wanted big profile cases. Andre says she's a good interviewer. That's what I told you right from the beginning. I told you she's top of the line.
Violence between him and his ex-girlfriend. But just that idea of paying someone $100,000 for video to bury it so no one sees it. Did you know that?
I did know that. I did know.
I have video footage of her doing an interview, and I haven't released it. I will put it out very soon, folks. Very soon.
That. I mean, I knew that there was a video that
But
the
you just hadn't
Intercontinental
seen it.
had. I hadn't seen it.
Okay.
I didn't think it existed. I mean, I thought that, it was sort of taken care of. And that was a mutual thing between, Sean and Cassie. I mean, Cassie had a premiere coming out. Nobody wanted this video leaked,
So in conclusion, I'll tell you about this video. On the very first day of trial, they brought out this video and they played it so many times. I think they played it about 5 times. According to my notes, they slowed it down. And throughout the course of the trial, being there every day, we saw this video played many times throughout. And every time it was tough. And a lot of times I couldn't understand or I couldn't imagine what Sean Diddy Combs' family was thinking as they saw the video playing. And also in the courtroom, I sat to the far left, kind of behind Sean Diddy Combs. But then there were another set of church pews, is what I call them, over to the right. And they had a big screen TV. Cassie's husband sat right under that screen. And so he would have to watch different facts, see the video like right at his head, and you could kind of see the guy. I won't speak on him, but it was amazing to be able to see all of these different concepts in real time. But the video had a major impact, I believe, on the case. And I think ultimately it's going to scar the way people look at Sean Diddy Combs forever because of that video. And I think it's rightly so. Anybody with a heart, I believe, would come to that conclusion. Teresa Dunn, a few final comments before we check out, folks. Teresa says, first time listening to your program. Really enjoyed the information. Enjoy it. She is very good. Love the interview. All right. Thank you, Teresa. Please come back and hang out with us some more. Typically, every day at lunch, we cover the news, but today we slowed it down, and I hadn't covered Sean Diddy Combs in a while, so I figured, why not cover it a little bit? Too much of the case is just not what I like, so I figured I'd give a little bit. Charm Lamb says a lot of people are ignoring the fact that he was on drugs heavily. Drugs change a person. Jane, I believe, hinted that he seemed to be fighting a mental battle. Yes, indeed, those points of interest came out in the court case. I think they're going to play a big part on October the 3rd when he's sentenced. I'm pretty sure they're going to use those different ideas to try to mitigate the time that he gets. All right, let's see. Eric says they have so many people to pay in their office. Big cases pay more. All right. So very good. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We had some technical, as Deborah would say, a malfunction tonight with the sound. Not sure why StreamYard does that, but we're going to improve that here shortly. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow at noon sharp. We'll bring you some of the top hot topics, top cases that are in the media right now. Good night to you all, especially to the moderators. Thank you guys for all you do. Thank you to everyone that hit the like button, and thank you to everyone that shared and subscribed. We had 300 people subscribe at lunch today. That is terrific. Not sure how many people subscribed tonight, but everybody is important. And even though many of us sit on different sides of the aisle, some people are Republicans, some people are Democrats, we try to have a meeting of the minds and show respect to people and not just try to bully people or try to hit people, the kind of things that we saw tonight and we kind of reviewed. So stay tuned for more information, more ideas as we try to work together. And you guys have a good night, and I'll catch you tomorrow soon.